My name is Elena Ramirez, and if you'd told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here, spilling my guts to a camera in my dimly lit living room, I would have laughed in your face. I'm a 52-year-old real estate agent from suburban Chicago. No kids, the kind of woman who thrives on open houses and closed deals. My life was predictable: yoga on Tuesdays, book club Thursdays, and the occasional glass of Chardonnay to unwind. That all changed last summer when I hired Maria. It started innocently enough. My old Victorian house on Elm Street 3. Stories of creaky charm with a porch and a backyard that backed up to the forest preserve had become too much to handle alone. After my ex-husband bailed 5 years back, I'd soldiered on, but the dust bunnies were winning the war. A friend from the office, Susan, mentioned her cleaning lady was looking for more hours. She's a godsend, Elena. From El Salvador, hardworking as they come. Won't break the bank either. I met Maria on a sweltering July afternoon. She pulled up in a beat-up Honda Civic, her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail, wearing a faded blue sundress that hung loose on her slender frame. She couldn't have been more than 35, with warm brown eyes that crinkled when she smiled and calloused hands that spoke of a life far tougher than mine. "Señora Ramirez," she said in accented English, shaking my hand firmly. "I clean good. I cook too, if you like. No trouble." We toured the house together. I showed her the kitchen with its chipped formica counters, the dining room where I'd hosted exactly 0 dinner parties since the divorce, and the upstairs bedrooms that echoed with emptiness, the attic. I glossed over that. It was my least favorite part, a dusty relic full of forgotten boxers from my marriage, spiderwebs thick as curtains, and a single bulb that flickered like it was on its last breath. "Just the main floors for now," I told her. "We'll see about the rest." She started the next Monday, 3 days a week, 8 hours a stretch. Maria was everything Susan promised: efficient, quiet, and invisible in that way good help is supposed to be. She'd arrive at 9 a.m. sharp, armed with her own supplies: vinegar for the windows, baking soda for the grout, and get to work. By noon, the place smelled like lemon polish and fresh linen. She'd leave me a plate of tamales or pupusas for lunch, wrapped in foil with a note: "Eat, Señora. You too skinny." I found myself looking forward to her visits, not just for the sparkling sinks, but for the small talk. She'd share snippets of her life: escaping gang violence in San Salvador, crossing the border with nothing but a backpack and a prayer, sending half her pay home to her 2 boys in a foster program back there. For the first month, it was bliss. My sales picked up. I closed on a lakefront condo in Evanston, and the house felt alive again. But then, around mid-August, the noises started. It was subtle at first, like the house settling after a long sigh. I'd be in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for a solo dinner, when I'd hear it, a soft thump from upstairs, like someone dropping a book. "Maria." I'd call out, assuming she'd forgotten something. But she'd be long gone by then, her Civic rumbling down the street hours earlier. I'd climb the stairs, heart picking up a lazy rhythm, and find nothing. A loose floorboard. I'd tell myself, these old houses have personalities. The thumps grew bolder. One night, as I soaked in the clawfoot tub with a glass of Pinot, there was a scrape like furniture being dragged across wood. It came from the hallway outside the bathroom. I froze, bubbles popping around my ears, the water turning cold. "Hello?" My voice echoed off the tiles, small and silly. Silence. I wrapped myself in a towel, peeked out empty corridor, shadows pooling under the hall light. Back to bed. I chalked it up to the wind rattling the eaves. Chicago summers bring storms that howl like banshees. But the whispers came next, and those burrowed under my skin. It was a Thursday, Maria's day off. I'd come home early from an open house, arms full of grocery bags, the air thick with the promise of rain. As I unpacked in the kitchen, I heard it, a low murmur, like 2 people conversing in the next room. Feminine voices, overlapping in a language I couldn't place. No, too guttural, laced with vowels that stretched like taffy. I set down the milk, wiped my hands on my slacks, and followed the sound to the living room. Empty. The TV was off. Windows shut tight. The voices seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, muffled but insistent, rising and falling like a heated argument. I stood there, pulse thudding in my temples, until the phone rang. Susan, checking on a listing. By the time I hung up, the whispers had faded to nothing. "You're losing it, Elena," I muttered, pouring a stiff gin and tonic. That night, I double-checked the locks and slept with the lights on. The next day, Maria arrived with her usual smile. I almost didn't mention it. God, how embarrassing to sound like a crazy cat lady, but the words tumbled out over coffee. "Have you heard anything strange here?" "Noises, I mean, at night." She paused, her rag mid-swipe on the counter, eyes flicking to mine. "Noises? Like what, senora?" "Thumps, scrapes, and voices, whispering." Her face tightened, just for a second, before softening into concern. "Old house? Yes. They talk sometimes. Ghosts of the wind." She laughed, light and forced, then changed the subject. "You want I scrub the oven today? It's filthy." I let it drop, but her reaction gnawed at me. Was that pity in her eyes? Or something else? Recognition? The incidents escalated after that, a slow drip turning to a flood. Footsteps now, heavy and deliberate. Pacing the upstairs hall at 2 a.m., I'd bolt upright in bed. Sheets twisted around my legs. Straining to listen, thud, thud, pause, thud, back and forth. Like a sentinel on guard. Once, I grabbed my phone, flashlight beam cutting through the dark, and crept to the door. The footsteps stopped the moment my hand touched the knob. I waited, breath shallow, for what felt like hours. Nothing. Back under the covers, I scrolled Zillow listings on my phone until dawn, convincing myself it was the neighbor's dog or a raccoon in the chimney. Maria noticed my frayed edges. "You look tired, senora," she'd say, pressing a mug of her herbal tea into my hands, chamomile laced with something earthy, cinnamon maybe. "Drink, it calms the spirits." Spirits. The word hung there, casual as weather talk, but it prickled. On her third week, she asked to clean the attic. "Dust up their bad for lungs." "I do quick." I hesitated. That space was my Pandora's box photo albums of a honeymoon in Maui. My ex's golf clubs gathering rust. Love letters yellowed with time. But the noises seemed loudest from above, so I nodded. "Knock yourself out. Just be careful on the pool downstairs." She vanished up there with her bucket and broom, the ladder creaking under her weight. I paced the kitchen, ears tuned to the ceiling. Muffled sweeps, the clink of glass. Then, silence. "Too long, Maria." No answer. My stomach knotted. I climbed up, the air turning thick and stale. Motes dancing in the slanted light. She was kneeling by a stack of boxers, one open, her back to me. "Maria, everything okay?" She startled, slamming the lid shut. See, and just old things, memories." Her voice was off, breathy. In her hand, a faded Polaroid me and my ex at our wedding. All taffeta and tuxedos. How the hell had she found that so fast? "Sorry," I said, awkward. "Didn't mean to interrupt." She stood, tucking the photo into her apron pocket. "No problem. Attic clean now." "But," she trailed off, glancing at the far wall, where the insulation sagged like old skin. "This house, it holds secrets. You hear them." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "In my country, we say houses remember. Bad things that happen, they echo. Like radio waves." She crossed herself quickly, eyes darting to the shadows. "Maybe you sell it. Start new." I laughed it off, but her words stuck like burrs. That night, the whispers returned, clearer than before. Not Spanish, something older. Indigenous maybe, Words like I twisted into pleas. Help, dual pain. Help, I bolted the attic hatch from below. But the voices seeped through. A chorus now, overlapping in grief. By September, I was a wreck. Sales calls went to voicemail. I snapped at book club over a misplaced wine glass. Susan cornered me at the grocery store. Elena, you look like hell. What's going on? I spilled it all, the noises, the whispers, Maria's cryptic warnings. She listened, brow furrowed, then grabbed my cart. Okay, that's it. Ghost hunt. Tonight, I'll bring the Ouija board from my garage. I wanted to protest, but desperation has a way of overriding dignity. Susan arrived at 8 p.m. with a bottle of Cabernet, a Ouija board wrapped in a beach towel, and her husband, Mike, who looked equal parts amused and skeptical. If it's termites, we'll call an exterminator, he joked, cracking open a beer. If it's poltergeists, I'm out. We set up in the living room, candles flickering on the coffee table. The board between us, planchette quivering under our fingers. Maria had left early, claiming a headache. So the house felt cavernous. Shadows leaping like intruders. Spirits of this home, Susan intoned. Her realtor Polish giving way to something theatrical. Are you here? The planchette twitched. We gasped, me Susan. Mike rolled his eyes, then spelled out YES. My heart hammered. Who are you? Slow drag, MR. It stuck on the R, circling like a jammed record. Then, faster, GURRRA. Guerra, war. But it felt like a name. What do you want? I whispered. The lights dimmed, power surge. Mike muttered and the planchette flew, TRUTH, BURED. Susan squealed, Mike cursed as his beer tipped. Upstairs, the footsteps thundered. A stampede now, shaking the chandelier crystals. We bolted the session, candles snuffed, but the air hummed with charge. This is nuts, Mike said, packing the board, get a priest or a plumber. Either way, call me tomorrow. They left taillights fading into the misty night. Alone, I poured a tumbler of scotch and climbed to the attic. Hatch unbolted, despite my fear. The single bulb buzzed on, casting jagged shadows. I rummaged through boxes, sweat beading despite the Chiltex returns. Holiday ornaments, then a small, locked cedar chest I'd forgotten. My ex's man cave stash, probably the key was taped underneath. Inside, yellowed newspapers from 1992, the year we bought the house. Headlines screamed, local woman vanishes from Elm Street home, Clara Hensley. 28, wife of a traveling salesman. Gone without a trace. Last seen arguing with her sister-in-law over family matters. The article mentioned whispers from neighbors, Clara's husband beating her. Bruises hidden under long sleeves. Police suspected foul play but found no body. The house sat empty for years until we snapped it up at auction. My hands shook as I read on. A follow-up, Hensley declared dead. Estate to brother. And a photo, Clara. Smiling wanly in a high-necked dress, her eyes hollow. Below it, a grainy shot of the house or house, the attic window like a dark eye. The whispers started then. Right there in the attic, so close, I felt breath on my neck. A Uden dwelling. Gera her maiden name? Clara? Gera Hensley. The pieces clicked, the thumps, her pacing in rage or despair. The scrapes, furniture shoved in futile escape. The voices, her pleas for help, echoing through decades of silence. I fled downstairs, newspapers clutched like talismans, and called Maria. Voicemail. Desperate. I texted, come over now, need to talk about the attic. She arrived 20 minutes later, rain-slicked and wide-eyed, clutching a rosary. Signora, what happened? You okay? I thrust the articles at her. This, Clara, she was here murdered, maybe. The noises, it's her. Maria scanned the pages, her lips moving silently in prayer. Then, slowly, I know this story. My abuela told it in San Salvador, but same. Woman trapped, voice carry on wind. But here, she set the papers down, eyes distant. When I clean attic, I find photo, not yours, hers. In box, under floorboard. She'll look at me, like she'll wait. You saw her photo. And didn't say anything? She shrugged, apologetic. You American. You think crazy. In my home, we listen. We help. She pulled the Polaroid from her pocket, not my wedding shot. But Clara's, creased and faded. How? I'd assumed. God, the attic light had played tricks. Tell me what to do, I begged, sinking onto the couch. The rain lashed the windows, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Maria lit candles from her bag, white tapers scented with sage, drew a circle of salt around us on the hardwood. We call her, apologize, let go. I nodded, terrified but tethered to her calm. We sat cross-legged, hands clasped, her rosary beads cool against my palm. Clara, she murmured in Spanish, then English. Clara Guerra, Hinsley. We hear you. We sorry for silence. Rest now, Hermana. The truth free you. The room chilled, breath fogging like winter. Footsteps overhead frantic now, circling. Whispers swelled, betrayed, buried. Under the oak. The backyard oak. The one that shaded my patio, roots twisting like veins. Maria chanted on a lilting rhythm that blended Catholic prayer with something older. Mayan, maybe her abuela's ways. The candles guttered, flames bending toward the stairs. Then, a crash from the attic glass shattering. I screamed, but Maria held fast. Stay, she angry, but she here. Minutes stretched to eternity. The footsteps slowed, stuttered, then stopped. The whispers softened to a sigh, fading like smoke. One last word. Gracias. Silence blanketed the house, profound as snow. Maria crossed herself, extinguishing the candles. She go, but tomorrow, we dig. Dig under the oak, in the pouring rain. Insane. But dawn brought resolve. I called in sick to work. Maria showed with shovels borrowed from Mike. We trudged to the backyard. Mud sucking at our boots. The oak's branches clawing the gray sky. Neighbors. Peeked from curtains, crazy ladies gardening in a downpour, but we dug anyway. 2 feet down before the soil turned rocky. They're wrapped in oilcloth, brittle with time, a small bundle. Bones, tiny and fragile, no bigger than a doll's. And a locket. Engraved with CGH Clara's, she'd hidden it. Or her killer had her unborn child, perhaps. Evidence of the life she carried in secret. We reburied it properly that afternoon, in a Catholic cemetery on the edge of town. Father O'Malley didn't ask questions. Maria's prayers smoothed the way, as we lowered the box bones, locket, and a lock of hair Maria had snipped from the bundle. The sun broke through, gilding the graves. That was 6 months ago. The house is quiet now, save for the hum of normal life, the fridge cycling on, birds in the eaves. Maria comes 5 days a week, not just to clean, but to cook feasts of plantains and pozole that fill the rooms with warmth. We've become unlikely friends. Trading stories over coffee, her boys' letters from El Salvador, my botched blind dates. I never sold the house. Instead, I turned the attic into a studio, easels and paints. A space for the art classes I always meant to take. And the whispers. They were real as the ache in my back from digging that day. But truth has a way of exercising shadows. If you're watching this on YouTube, doubting every word, good doubt, then listen. Houses remember. People, too. And sometimes, all it takes is hiring the right help to set the echoes free.